Hi, so today I want to talk about free will. This is something that has been on my mind a lot lately, and kind of, you have these thoughts that are kind of in the back of your mind, proving in your head, and as you gain knowledge and as you sort of think about other stuff, you know that other stuff sort of helps in to fill in the missing pieces and gaps in your knowledge or understanding in a certain topic that you were thinking about. And for me, that has been, at least for the last some number of months, it has been the we shouldn't have any biases or fear about talking about these topics honestly and openly, even if the outcome or information or some kind of rationalities that we get from it would be something that we don't like. So, we shouldn't believe in it just because we shouldn't believe in things just because we want to believe in them. We should find out the truth. That has always been my obsession, to actually find out what is the truth, not to chase some kind of dream of mine or just something that I want to be true and to prove it. I just want to know what is actually going on. And so here we arrive at the topic of free will, which is arguably one of the most important topics. People really, our whole civilization is based on the idea of free will, and it's perfectly logical. There is no mystery about it. If we wind back the clock and we look at our evolution as a species, then we understand perfectly how this sort of agency of us being responsible for our own actions makes perfect sense in the way how we interact with each other, how we raise our children, and how we communicate with ourselves and how we see ourselves and the world. It makes perfect sense. Of course, if we wouldn't have this feeling of free will, we would just be laying on the grass thinking about the cosmos, and things would be way weirder. Well, long story short, we wouldn't be here. So maybe I need to make disclaimers, maybe I don't. First disclaimer that I will just make, and where we will end up at the end of the video, is that my own personal opinion, is that free will is not that important. What I think is way more important is our conscious experience. If I would have a choice by God or whatever, have consciousness or free will, of course, I will take consciousness. I wanted to say free will for a moment, but that was a slip of the tongue. So, of course, I would take consciousness. Without consciousness, everything else is worthless, including free will. Second disclaimer would be that just logically and just in principle, the definition of free will is an agent's ability to make choices in the world free of any constraints. So, that has always been really important to me, free of any constraints. And when we think about it for more than a minute, then we are nowhere near free of any constraints. Our entire existence is within constraints. So right from the start, from the wherever you want to put the starting line at, we are in constraints. There is no freedom. So okay, so those are just some thoughts. So let's start. So something I have been thinking about for a long time and how I think about it. So let's just start and think about the moment that you as a being were brought into existence for this first cell and sperm and egg came together and you were conceived. So we as human beings like to take responsibility for our actions, and we think that we are responsible for what and who we are. But of course, at least more and more increasingly, we can agree that at least some part of us is genetics, that we can't do anything about it. And at least some part of us is our environment, how we grow up, and we can't do anything about it. Now, I would just take that to the logical, honest, intellectual conclusion. That is all that there is. There is no magical step in this growth of us as a being where we had any more freedom of choice. So you were conceived. So from the moment you were conceived, you start to get influenced by a billion other things. By how your mother sleeps at night, what kinds of sounds she hears, what kind of music she listens to, what kind of people she sees on the street, what kind of a month you were conceived in. Every specific part of the pregnancy is a different developmental cycle with different set of hormones and everything. There's just wonderfully complex chemistry going on. But there are billion things that influence us even before we ever leave our mothers. So okay, so we can agree on that, and we can we can agree on that. So there are chemical changes in us by our environment, what our mother feeds into us, chemistry and changes that happens to her during her mood and her stress and her happiness and her love and whatever she feels like. Does she care for us? Does she do drugs? Is she clean? Does she try to take care of herself? That is simple and obvious to people. But I would say it's not like 10 things or 100 things, not even 1,000 things. Like I said, it's billions and billions of things that we are just not smart enough to catalog yet. But once we get like super intelligent artificial intelligence, we will be able to catalog every single influence that makes us who we are. And we can wind back the clock, and we can see perfectly some character trait that you have right now, how it came to be. But that's fine, that's not you acting, that's like naturally your chest and your mother, of course, okay. So, you were born. So the first moments, what kind of a doctor, delivers you? What is the first face that you see coming into this world? Is the doctor a young man or an old woman? How bright are the lights exactly? How warm is the room? What's the temperature of the room? How quiet is it? How many people are there in the room? I could just keep listing those things. And then, of course, we go on. You don't choose if you have loving parents or not. You don't choose what school you go to. You don't choose what people you meet in there. You don't choose what kind of teachers you have in there. And we forget that each one of those influences us. It's like a infinite, endless branching tree of choices and opportunities and possibilities, things that influence you. It's the effect. It's the butterfly effect. It's chaos. It's chaos theory in effect. How one minuscule, tiny change from 1 year in your development can change you 30 years from that moment and who you will be like. So, you're a kid walking down the street. You don't choose what kind of people you meet. You don't choose if on one day you're going home from school and, it will be a nice day or a bad day, it will be raining or sunshine. All of those things influence you. Will there be a new store opening up? Will there be some evil old person on the street, giving you some bad influence? Or will there be a lovely old person on the street giving you a lovely memory for life? Will there be bullies that will pick on you? Or will there be some wonderful other child that you will make friends with forever? We don't choose none of those things. And we sort of really, really, really fail to see all of these influences. What we are all of those influences. There is no point where we magically gain any more agency. By the time that people think that they are able to already make some choices, any choice that they make is necessarily influenced by all of those other influences in their past. There is no way to isolate yourself from those influences. So, what part in this existence, in this equation, in this timeline, what part can you take any credit for? Where is your free will and freedom? Where does it come from? And, I am not by any means like a strong materialist. You would be surprised at my bizarre views of the cosmos and what consciousness might be and all of that stuff. But I'm always trying to be honest with myself. I'm doing my best as a human being to not be deluded as best I can. Everyone is delusional in some way. But I do my best to minimize my delusions, at least when it comes to understanding reality, the best I can in this fleshy human body with these brains that we are provided. I'm doing the best I can, genuinely. If someone comments on this video and tells me exactly how I'm wrong, thank you. That would be amazing and wonderful because I learned something new. I don't care. Only thing I care about is, what makes the most sense about reality. And I love, it is not even love, but it's just for some reason it's such an interesting and important thing for me to understand our existence in space, in time, and also in these bodies, is human beings, in consciousness. And in the context of do we have freedom or whatever, that is what I find fascinating, and that is what I care about. So not being wrong or right, but just what makes the most sense. And here, some time ago I didn't think so much about it, so I wasn't sure, but now this is just how it is. And I'm not mad about it, I'm not upset about it, exactly because of the reason that it doesn't change anything. I'm sure there are plenty of people who would say to what I was just saying, is that like, but it doesn't really change anything. Of course, it doesn't change anything. It only changes this kind of philosophical discussion that we're having. I think that is of importance and significance. I think we need to think and talk about these things to be self-aware enough as creatures. So I hope I made it clear, at least in some way, of how I think about it. Like, because I see no way to separate our influences from who we are right now. Everything you think and feel and your preferences and interests, you can enjoy them and you can have them, as I do with my own, whatever I came to be, this strange creature. But we are not authors of that. At no point did we sit down with God and have like some absolute free choice of, okay, now I will choose what I will be. And like, you don't choose what your hobbies or interests will be. You don't choose, you just discover them. They just sort of find you and you find them. You never choose them unless you force something or whatever. So what I promised to get to, an interesting promise that many people might not care about, but that's the idea of consciousness. So all of this being said, what I feel like is that the most important thing, putting all of that stuff aside, is consciousness. What we feel in the present, this conscious experience of being present in the moment, that's the only thing that could matter in the universe, have choice or not. But what is real and what is true, what no one can take away from you, is no matter what happens in your life and has happened in your life and will happen, you are here still experiencing it. And your experiences and feelings, they are real and true, even if free will and choices do not exist. What you feel and experience is still true. And I'm not saying it's futile to change your behavior or try to be better, not at all. Not at all. In a way of kind of nihilistic thinking of, nothing matters at all, there is no right or wrong in the world or good or bad. We could just strive to be the best beings that we could ever be. Even if we are confined, I think it's kind of beautiful that we are, let loose, sort of in this world, and all of these things influence us. And, if something influences you in a positive direction, to make you change yourself in some good way, you shouldn't discard it. You should accept it and welcome it like a wonderful opportunity. Like, again, you see this branch on this tree and you're like, I can't take that. You can't take that. Even if that choice was made for you 1 billion years ago, you could still feel, that you can take that. Because if you don't feel that feeling that you can take that, then you won't take that branch. Even if that also was, chosen 1 billion years ago or whatever, that still matters. In our daily life of being conscious agents, it still matters. What choices you make, even if they're not real. It is still of importance. What we do at the end of the day, it still makes some difference if you put effort into stuff. It's so difficult to explain because this whole topic is such a mindfuck, at the same time that we have no choice. But at the same time to listen to our hearts and to listen to ourselves intellectually. But it baffles me how so many people sort of can't comprehend this way of thinking, which to me at least, unless someone can, give a perfect argument against it, this is just undeniably true to me, for now at least. This is like the logical conclusion of everything, we've been thinking about. That's just where we end up in, and that's just the universe that we live in. In our universe, no agent could have free will because no agent would be free of any constraints, not even God. Maybe but then God would live in some other dimension, not in our universe. Because in our universe, anything that exists is already by definition in constraints and influenced by other things around it. You can't look at a blank wall without it changing you by the color of that blank wall, or by how big or large that blank wall is, or what the brightness of the wall is, or whatever. Like, every single thing that interacts with you changes you forever, even if it's a minute thing. In a month, in a year, it can change who you are completely. I just think it's important and useful to be self-aware about these things, and to not play stupid, and to not be afraid of these kind of things, because that's just the truth. That's just, where we find ourselves in a profoundly weird reality, and here we are, these flesh and blood creatures that can feel things, think, experience. A billion years ago we were just some single-celled stuff in the ocean floating around, and now we are here. There's an unbroken line of cell division and getting offspring from that cell a billion years ago to us now. And that blows my mind when I think about it, because that actually happened. Even if we're in a simulation, like, in some original universe, that actually happened. And we are here, and, again, like, I've started mentioning this in every video, like, we take it so much for granted. And I don't think we should. The world can be wonderful. I pray to Jesus and Dalai Lama that we're smart enough to hang on, that we can get through this stupid teenage phase of humanity, and that we can get over this hump and to transcend as a species into a beautiful future way beyond any of our imaginations currently. So these are just some of my thoughts about free will, I suppose, and choice. I hope there was something interesting here for you. If you have any thoughts, please share them in the comments. And of course, thank you so much for watching, and take care.